Most Jeep engines don't wear out. They get murdered by their owner. One repair network says about 25% engine failures come from ignored cooling systems, and a classic teardown study blamed 43.4% on dirt and 16.6% bad lubrication. In this video, we're not talking about one dumb mistake. We're going through 7 quiet habits that are already chewing through your Jeep. And habit number 1 is the one owners discover right after the engine is dead. Habit number 7, hammering the throttle on a cold start. Up to 75% engine wear happens right after you start your Jeep. That's not some myth. Oil companies and cold start tests keep bringing it up, and for good reason. You know how it feels normal to start up, throw it in drive, and gun it out of the neighborhood? Most folks do it every morning. Here's what they don't realize. Oil is still crawling through the engine, cold and thick, trying to reach all the spots that actually matter. You hear a little ticking or maybe a short rattle on those cold mornings? It's not just the weather. That's the sound of metal scraping metal with barely any protection. Engineers call it mixed lubrication. Sounds boring, right? It's the moment when your pistons and bearings are almost rubbing raw, all because the oil film isn't ready yet. You ever wonder why some engines sound tired before their time? This is it. That wake up and race habit knocks years off your Jeep's life. It's wild. One cold start at freezing temps can wear your engine as much as dozens of miles. So if you want your Jeep to last, just let it idle 20 to 30 seconds, then drive gently and keep the revs low until the temp gauge moves. Super easy, but almost nobody does it. Another thing most drivers miss is how fast habits lock in. Your brain learns that the Jeep handles it fine, so you repeat the cold punch every day without thinking. Meanwhile, those early scrapes don't heal. Bearings don't regenerate. Rings don't magically smooth out. They only wear thinner clothes. By the time the engine feels weak, the damage is already baked in. The scary part is this habit feels productive, not harmful, which is why it sneaks past smart owners for years. Everyone thinks the enemy is heat, but sometimes it's the morning rush that does you in. The next habit? This one really brings the heat, literally. Habit number 6, driving. While the temp gauge creeps into the red, 40 to 50% engine failures actually start in the cooling system. That temp needle? It's not just there to look cool. A bunch of studies say most blown engines trace back to things like low coolant, a busted water pump, or a clogged radiator. Ever been climbing a hill, watching that needle climb, and just hope it'll come back down? Yeah, so do most people. But get this, just 1/16 inch scale inside a coolant passage can cut heat transfer 40%. That means the metal is getting roasted inside even when the dash looks just a little hot. Oil gets thin, metal swells up, and suddenly you're roasting rings and valves. Nobody plans to kill their Jeep this way. It just happens because people think, it'll cool off. Overheating stacks up slowly, layer after layer, until you're looking at a head gasket job or a full engine swap. Lab tests show overheating leads straight to ring damage, scored cylinders, and cooked bearings, even if the only thing you skipped was a coolant top-up. What really tricks people is that overheating damage doesn't show up right away. You don't stall, you don't hear a bang, you just keep driving. But heat warps surfaces at different speeds, so seals stop sealing and clearances stop matching. That's when oil slips past rings or coolant starts disappearing with no visible leak. Months later, someone calls it bad luck, even though the warning needle tried to speak up every single climb. You see the temp needle push past halfway? Kill the AC, go easy on the throttle, and if it keeps climbing, pull over. Open the cap only when it's safe, because steam burns suck. People swap comfort for engine life, and they don't realize the damage until the repair bill hits. Heat is quiet, until suddenly it's not. What about water, though? Most folks have no clue how brutal water crossings can be. Hey, if you're starting to notice a few of these habits in your own routine, keep watching, because the next one is even more surprising, and it's one nobody talks about. Habit number 5, hitting deep water. Like a Jeep commercial, Hydrolock can destroy your engine in seconds, and it happens when water gets sucked into a cylinder. The piston tries to crush it, but water doesn't squish. Something else snaps. Dealers say the most common result is bent rods, broken pistons, sometimes even a cracked crankshaft. Sounds dramatic, but it happens fast. One hard gulp of water and your day is done. Have you ever seen those Jeep ads, slow-mo splashing through water like it's nothing? Service desks see the bills. You hit a puddle too deep, maybe the intake dips for just a second, and now your Jeep cranks but won't start. Or worse, it makes a horrible bang. The next stop is a tow, and a shop quote for $5,000 to $10,000 on a new engine. A snorkel helps, but it's not magic. If you're in over the intake or hit a big bow wave, you're gambling with the engine. The worst part about Hydrolock is how random it feels afterward. One crossing works fine, so confidence goes up. The next one looks similar, but the water moves faster, or the bottom drops suddenly. That false safety is what kills engines. The Jeep doesn't care how many times it survived before. Liquid doesn't compress and the engine never negotiates. When it happens instantly without time to react or back out. Smart move, always check how deep before you go. Walk it if you're not sure, drive slow and steady, and never trust random water. There might be a dip or hole you can't see. Water crossings look like fun, but one mistake and the fun turns expensive. So let's say you dodge the water. Are you letting dust ruin things instead? Habit number 4. Lugging big tires in too high gear. Big tires without regearing stress your engine every mile. When you throw on taller tires but keep the same gears, you make your Jeep work way harder, especially at low RPMs. Every hill, every heavy load, the engine's straining. Bearing failure data shows overload and poor lubrication kill a ton of engines just by drivers lugging along in the wrong gear. Have you ever heard that deep drone or chug when pulling a hill? That's the sound of high pressure inside the block. Pistons and bearings are begging for help, especially if the oil's already hot and thin. Over time, that stress wipes out the bearing surfaces, and by the time you feel a problem, the wear is already permanent. Not what you want. Want to keep things alive? If you go big on tires, match your gears. Don't be scared to downshift on a hill. It feels like you're going easy, but you're actually saving parts. High RPM with gentle throttle is safer than low RPM with your foot down. And always keep an eye on trans temps if you tow or climb a lot. Hot transmission, hot engine, more risk. What makes lugging dangerous is how quiet it is. There's no light, no alarm, just a low strain that feels normal after a while. The engine isn't screaming, so drivers think it's relaxed. In reality, each combustion hit is heavier, hammering bearings harder than they were designed for. Over time, that constant pressure reshapes surfaces that were meant to glide, not absorb punches. By then, the wear pattern is already locked in. Tires can look cool, but quietly eat your engine alive if you're not careful. And you'd be surprised what a cheap air filter or a little dust can do. Habit number 3. Off-road. Abuse with a clogged or cheap air filter. Dirt is the number one killer of bearings. 45.4% of failures come from it. Dust might look harmless floating around, but once it gets inside your engine, it's game over. Off-road, every trail is a dust factory. If your air filter is cheap, clogged, or even has a small leak, grit sneaks in and turns into sandpaper. Imagine following a buddy on a dry trail, eating his dust cloud, and there's a tiny gap in your airbox. You won't see the damage, just a slow fade in power, oil use creeping up, or compression dropping. The dirt scratches up cylinder walls, bearings, and even gets into the oil, riding along to other moving parts. No warning lights, just silent sabotage. Best move? Buy a real quality air filter, check it often, and make sure it seals tight. Clean the airbox after dusty runs, and if you use an oiled filter, go easy. Extra oil can mess up sensors and trap more dirt. One lazy filter change can shave years off your Jeep, and you'll never even see it happen. Dust damage also spreads its timeline out, which makes it sneaky. You don't lose power overnight. Instead, fuel economy drifts down, oil darkens faster, and starts to feel weaker. Nothing screams failure, so maintenance gets delayed. Meanwhile, those microscopic particles keep circulating, polishing metal away, grain by grain. Engines don't lose compression suddenly from dirt. They slowly forget how to hold pressure, and by the time it's obvious, the trail dust already won. Dust ruins engines quietly, but so does stretching your oil changes or picking the wrong oil. That's the next silent killer. Habit number 2. Stretching oil changes and using the wrong oil. Wrong oil or old oil can cut engine life by 150,000 miles. That's not a typo. Fleet studies show that skipping spec or pushing oil changes too far speeds up wear by up to 300% and makes failure almost twice as likely. A lot of people go for the cheapest oil or think, it's close enough. That's how engines get old before their time. Every oil is built for a reason. Right thickness, right mix of cleaners, anti-wear stuff, and rust blockers. Use the wrong one and moving parts grind against each other, especially when the oil is old and thin. Ticking noises, hard starts, more oil burning. Those aren't just miles. That's your engine telling you the shield is breaking. Jeeps get worked hard, towing, crawling trails, sitting in traffic with big tires. That's rough service, and it needs shorter oil change gaps, not longer. Don't trust the long life interval if you drive your Jeep, though. Always check the manual for the right oil type and filter, and change it sooner if you're hard on the engine. Oil analysis is smart too. It'll show metal, dirt, or even fuel in your oil before you have a big problem. Cutting corners with oil never saves money. It just builds up damage. But the biggest mistake? Ignoring low oil or that red warning light. That one ends it all, fast. Habit number 1. Driving with low oil or warning lights for just a bit longer. Low oil means instant engine damage. Lube experts say the number one reason engines die is oil failure. Once that protective film is gone, metal starts eating metal, fast. You might get a flicker from the oil light, maybe only on corners or at idle. A slow leak that you keep an eye on. Most drivers keep moving because the Jeep still runs, But it only takes one hot pull or one long climb with low oil and boom, the bearings melt, the crank scores, or the whole thing locks up. After that, it's usually a $5,000 to $9,000 bill for a rebuild or a new engine, all because of a tiny leak or a warning light you thought could wait. The best habit you can have? Check the dipstick often, fix leaks right away, and treat every oil warning like a real emergency. Don't keep topping off and pretending it's fine. Solve the problem early before it turns deadly for your wallet. Engines can live forever with clean oil, correct oil, and enough oil. It's always that one time you try to push your luck that wipes out years of life in seconds. It's wild how the smallest, most just-for-now habits end up making all the difference. If any of these habits made you pause, share your Jeep story in the comments. Want more honest Jeep tips? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. See you in the next one.